Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase, pricing, and availability questions concerning this watch. This is one for the old guard, albeit with the polish and refinement that have characterized the present regime at Breitling. So you're looking at a model family launched in 2021. It's the Breitling Super Chronomat 44. Now, of course, when George Kern and outside investors took over from the Schneider family in 2017, one of the initiatives was to pare back, shall we say, the boldness of Breitling in the 2000s and early 2010s. So there were smaller watches, there were historical re-editions, there were watches that pander to the middle of the watch snob market. What there were few of were watches designed expressly with the prior enthusiast of the Breitling brand in mind. Watches that were bigger, watches that were ultra, hyper, or super in style and size. And this watch is definitely that. But you'll also note that the attention to detail, the overall quality, and the impression are to a higher standard than what came before. So big, but with good manners. 44 millimeters in diameter, my goodness, it's at least that. You can see 44 by 14.6 millimeters thick, and then 53.3 from lug to lug with a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. But take note that while it is a 22 millimeter spacing, and you can use any 22 millimeter strap here, the factory strap has a little bit of shoulder that projects beyond the lug. So you can see, though 22 is the measurement, the actual profile is quite a bit broader. So you're going to want to get something custom cut or go Breitling OEM just to make sure that this interface of lug to strap is as seamless and smooth a transition as it is with this factory strap. Taking a look, now it's all rubber, but it's got a little bit of a woven pattern molded into it. You could see that it's also got a little bit of the undulation of the Rouleaux bracelet featured on 80s and modern day Chronomat series watches. So it is a strap, but it's got a little bit of a nod to the Rouleaux bracelet, including the intermediate link in a skeuomorphic form. We've got a folding clasp. It's a single fold. It's got polish. It's got satin. It's a twin trigger release. You have to press both triggers to open it, the better to hold it securely. One of the features that makes this watch look almost as integrated as if it were on a bracelet is that there's basically no gap between strap and case. Because of a little recess and a hollow in the profile of the case, the strap can be cinched right up to it, so there's no way to even see daylight or a gap between strap and case. It's a very clean transition. It's very integrated. It looks all of a piece. We have screw-down crowns and pushers with ceramic elements in black, and the watch is 200 meters water resistant, so while the modern-day chronomat since 1983 has really been aviation-oriented, the reality is that just by standards alone, this could be considered a dive watch. It's 200 meters. It's got a constant operation indicator. It's got a unidirectional rotating dive style bezel with 120 clicks. It's got plenty of luminescence, including on the bezel pearl, and we'll take a look at that now so you can see just how abundantly loomed this watch is. Take note, too, that the chronograph seconds hand and all three sub-registers are luminescent, plus the rider tabs, a long-time distinctive feature of the modern chronomat, they are individually loomed as well. So you've got 4 points of reference on the bezel in the dark. Now the rider tabs are here primarily to provide an easy grip if your hands are wet, sweaty, or gloved. You can see that their caps, as well as the bezel insert, made of ceramic to resist scratching, and these screws aren't just there, as a Lemmy of Motorhead might say, to look mean. They actually have a purpose. This is a captive bezel, so these screws fix the bezel to the case. The idea being that because it's not snapped on, it can't be casually snapped off by an impact. So you have to remove all these screws to disassemble the watch, and that is a more secure and slightly more expensive way of making a bezel. It's a Breitling signature, though. You can see the case with satination on its flanks and its top. It's a little mirrored bevel that runs from edge to edge, and then the outer face of the rider tabs and the bezel are all polished. The dial. It is a lovely green metallic, and you can see that it has applique indices. It has a little rose gold Breitling B, now bereft of wings, because Breitling doesn't want to be pigeonholed as purely an aviation watch company. You've got a tachymeter scale outboard that can be used to gauge the speed of a high-speed object, such as a race car over a kilometer. And then, let's see how well I could show this. Inboard of that, we have a scale that goes up to 100, and people ask me, what is that called? That is a decimeter scale. It is an old, one might even say anachronistic style of scientific scale. There was a time, decades past, when hundredths of seconds were used in certain scientific and medical applications, and so that's what that is. If you ever see one of those, that is called a decimeter scale. With all applique indices, rhodium-plated steel, the dial has an upscale look. We have sunken registers, each with an azurage or concentric pattern, and blink and you'll miss it. There's actually a date hiding inside the chronograph hour counter down at 6 o'clock, so you've got a quick set for that. And then we also have a hacking or stop seconds function. Now, one quirk on this watch, and I guess it's something that might have been overlooked, but I'm going to shout this out. Take a look at that 3. Now look at the 3 on the tachymeter. Now look at the 3 on the register. Now look at the 3 on the disc. You can quite easily see these are not the same font in each case. A small oversight, one that makes the watch a little bit quirky. You can see the dial has a deep glossy sheen over its metallic base, giving it the impression that it's been lacquered on top of the metal dial disc. Taking a look at the crown guard structure, you can see it's handsomely contrast finished in polish and satin. And then we roll around to the case back where you can see the Breitling caliber B01, automatic winding with a 70-hour power reserve, quick set hacking, 47 joules, 5-position adjustment, COSC certified Swiss chronometer, and it's actually a good-looking movement that's properly sized for a display case back. Almost an accident, as the original Breitling B01 launched on the Chronomats in 2009, not intended to be seen, but it actually wound up looking pretty good in the current era of Breitling, where display case backs are common. Now it oscillates at 4 Hz, and you can see it uses an interesting hybrid regulator. Edicron is there for precise adjustment of beat error and timing, but then there's an ultra-fine timing eccentric screw that can be used to regulate. And then we have a KIF shock protection system, which is a little unusual because most systems that you'll see use either Inca block or Edishock these days. That's an unusual and somewhat upscale joule setting. You can also see that the escape wheel likewise uses a joule setting, which is not universal. It is a column wheel vertical clutch chronograph, and I have to say that the B01 column wheel really feels and sounds great. The qualitative difference between modern column wheels and cams, if you're comparing the two types of chronograph function selector, there's not a whole lot of distinction. Cams are so good these days that they feel like column wheels. There's only a handful of column wheels that still stand out, and this is one of them, really crisp. We also have a vertical clutch, which means you engage, there's no jump or secondary motion of the seconds hand, and if you want to leave it running, there's no additional wear and tear to the system due to the vertical clutch engagement not having any additional gear play. If you love this watch, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.